Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to invite Maiko Sakai, who is a service-based consultant, a personal friend, and a straight shooter to join us here today. I definitely trust her expertise so much that I regularly hire her to come be my confidant. And she doesn't call herself a coach, but I would call her one. And she certainly has the background with an MBA to help you scale your business, but she also introduces some unconventional growth strategies and mindset tips that really help you get out of your own way when you're working on growing your business. So, did I leave anything out? Maiko, you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you work with, who you help?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Maiko, and I'm, so happy to be here. I was so ecstatic when you invited me to come on. So yeah, like that, you nailed it. So I specialize in service-based business. A lot of times those are creative entrepreneurs, including the entertainment to the content houses to digital marketing firms to mainly agencies. I think, I'm accustomed to work with the agency model a lot, and I'm based in New York. And my, mission is to truly empower small service-based business owners to look at their business as an asset, not a job. And you might say like, well, that's kind of like obvious, but we can get into it a little bit more about taking a look at your business as an asset, not just you know an entity to conduct your business. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. So, and along those lines, and so, what are some of your like top tips? Because I love that mindset tip is one already itself. Like, view your business as that asset and not a job. Because it's like that cash flow quadrant. If you're a self-employed person, you're not really ever owning your business. You're just kind of like going through the motions of it, and you're kind of looking at it from the lens of something you're building out for the long term. So,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
yeah.
like that.
That's where this conversation about the freelancing versus actually running a business thing. And like freelancers out there, there's nothing wrong being a freelancer. But I wanted to sort of distinguish the difference, between those two so that you get to decide which route you want to go. Like I've known, like you also know, a bunch of people who are freelancers and making gazillion amount of money. There's nothing wrong with that. But running a business requires a different mindset. So yeah, we can talk more about that.
For sure, like to be a CEO. So, what are some common mistakes you've seen when clients are trying to scale up their business from the client acquisition perspective?
Right. They get too strategic. And, I wanted to emphasize this part very strongly that nowadays, the customers and clients, their thoughts, their feelings and concerns and desires are shifting. What does that mean? It basically means that they are becoming way more selective because there are plenty of choices out there, including all the technological tools, not just like choosing who to work with or which business to work with to get help, but there's that whole another area of AI that, other tools that are available to them so that this traditional way of sales has been questioned quite a bit. So the biggest mistake that I see nowadays that they need to just simmer down a little bit is being not salesy, but like being very assertive, when it comes to talking about their services, what they offer, and all of it. I think it requires more of understanding and really caring for those that you're speaking to and to build a relationship on it. Now, that sounds like a man, it's going to take forever. It doesn't really have to. You just don't want it to come across as, the people that you find in your DM on LinkedIn, basically.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And I wrote a whole blog on this, earning the right to sell. Like the relationship's got to come first before you pitch. You do need to be
Totally
making
agree.
enough offers. You need to be making offers or kind of leading people that way through your content, but in direct conversations, you don't want to dive in right there right away. It's just a little bit too much.
And also, I really wanted to, point this one out. If you do it right, though, they will ask you, is this something you can help me with? That's where you want to get to instead, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Back to that organic networking and just, like when I've reconnected with people in my network lately, they have been watching my content and bringing up things that I've been sharing on their own, or they wanted to set up that call. So they initiated that next step, but because I earned the right to sell by trying to
Right.
provide some of that high value content. So what are some of your top tips and practices? Or I know you've got some really good mindset stuff. I don't want to call it woo, but I just love it. It's a little counterintuitive. I know,
Yeah.
but I love it because it kind
Yeah.
of helps you shift a little bit. Like I know like your word of the years are more like fun and
Mhm.
play, which it's like I had a client who told me her business wasn't fun. And you
Yeah.
want to kind of have some of these things that kind of help you as you go on your growth trajectory, right? So what are some of
Totally.
your common tips and best practices around mindsets and client acquisition?
Yeah. So you wanted to, yes, this is going to sound a little woo, but, I stand by it is
Yeah.
that really forget what the outcome and what your goals are when you're doing it, but more
Hmm.
so like feel very abundant about it. The,
Yeah.
you know, whether you affirmation or vision board, I don't care, but just to operate based on the fact that there are plenty of clients, there are plenty of customers.
Hmm.
That's
Don't
a
be too
fact.
thirsty. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, if you operate from that place, naturally, you're not going to be very clingy to somebody that, who you just engaged with and constantly thinking about why is he not replying back to my email or why is she not calling me back? You don't have time for it because you are meeting a bunch of new people or reconnecting with people or you've worked with before. You're just too busy to pay attention to small things. What it does is that when the time that you completely forget about the first person you got in touch with, that person get back to you finally, whether that was the right moment, whatever the reason that may be, and you go, oh, that's right, I did reach out to that person. That's where you want it to be. So it's less stressful and less clingy, not clinging on to
Hmm.
like every single people that you reach out to and not getting any replies back, and your emotional landscape takes this nosedive, right? What I'm suggesting is to even out your emotional landscape itself so that you get to keep going with it. Whether you are trying to go for your first 100 no's to get one yes, or even more, it doesn't really bother you too much.
And you can't be a successful entrepreneur without having a little bit of basic sales skills. I know there's so many entrepreneurs that think they can outsource selling, but it's like it's not really something you can really outsource fully. I don't believe until your company's at a much higher scale and factor. And even then, CEOs are usually still involved in deals, especially like the larger ones. So um yeah, to your point though, it's like you don't need to get too emotionally invested in the process. Set your
Right.
intentions, just go out and be a generous, gracious networker and reconnect and build relationships with people because that's why I did your challenge, right? Your sales challenge. And that was like all
Yeah.
about meeting 100 new people, which is like a lot of fun. And that's a mindset tip in itself is just to kind of get back out there and engage with people. And then
Gamify it.
gamify it totally. So I love that approach. And it's just
Yep.
definitely a nice way to kind of take a lot of the pressure off to your point and keeping your emotions, a little bit more in check. Um,
Absolutely.
And so I just love picking your brain because it's like these questions are like for me as well, because I love, digging deeper into that, smart brain of yours.
Oh, thank you.
Things. Yeah. But like, I know you have a big premise of like simplifying your offers to set the stage to scale.
Yep.
So, like, can you speak a little to that about,
Yes.
removing that complexity and how that actually helps you grow your business?
Well, I want anyone who's listening to this session to just take a moment to think about this. Do you believe that you need to be a one-stop shop and to show your versatility with your skill set? or with, with your expertise in order to get or acquire customers and clients? Yes or no? The chances are a lot of service-based business owners out there feel that way. They want to be a one-stop shop so that they get to say yes to whatever requests or whatever inquiries that come their way. Otherwise, they feel a tad bit inadequate. But that is the wrong path, in my opinion, especially, any companies at the growth stage to think, because having more offers, especially on like a horizontally, like they're all sort of related, but they're different, like different silos or something, then your attention is going to be completely stretched out to those, God knows, 5 different, service offers, or 11 different ones that, the customers can a la carte. That's crazy. No wonder so many business owners are completely burned out because of it. No wonder,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you cut it down to 3, and I'm a big fan of vertical instead of horizontal, meaning that, there's the entryway, the next one up, then the next one up.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're all sort of connected. You get to take your customers and clients for a journey for growth, something like that. The 3 at max, really, but get really great at it. Keep tweaking on those offers, making them better, give feedback, and automate and delegate. That way, it's a lot of smoother way to scale. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And as that relates to niches, and that does remind me of that blog post you wrote on Maiko's website. She's got the best blogs. Like that's how I initially came across her. I think I found you on Twitter and I like read all your blogs and I was just
Yeah.
like, wow, I just love everything you're saying. And that's that whether you go out for dinner, do you want to go to the place that has 40 things on the menu or a few things that they do the best? So
Yep.
you definitely want to be the fine dining restaurant. And then with that scale factor, as this now we can segue into like how niching also supports, it's for that same thing. It's like if you're doing the same rinse repeat over and over and over again,
Mm,
for example, you'll know the Google AdWords, you'll know like you'll have the playbook once you kind of get in your lane
that's
and
right.
you get really specific, right?
Yep.
So do
The
you want to speak to niching down? And I know this is one of the hills you'll die on. So you want
Yeah,
to tell
yeah,
us a
no,
little bit about that?
absolutely. It's kind of funny that there's an episode on somebody else's podcast and talking about, niching down is not the way to go. So like I'm looking forward to listen to that one. I haven't listened to it just yet, but
Mm,
yeah, but that is the hill that I would die on. Basically, I know that most of entrepreneurs and small business, service-based owners are full of ideas. I get it. I do have a lots of ideas as well. But the thing is that we need to bring in our sort of, again, the mindset thing about the craftspersonship, sort of, if that's the word, like a craftsmanship, a craft person, a craft peopleship, to get really good at the same thing you do over and over and over again will help you to be known for one thing.
mhm,
Now, you may argue that I don't want it to be known for one thing. I'm full of, I have tons of different expertise and experiences in this industry, and I
yeah,
want them all to know that I can do this and this and this and this and this and even that. Get really good at one thing first, to be known for one thing, then you get to pivot or you can change however you want to, because people have this short attention. But actually, I need to take that back.
mhm,
People actually do not have a short attention span. It's just that you're not grabbing their attention. In order to grab their attention, you need to really, really simplify your messaging, your offer, and be sure that that works every darn time, so that they get to have a certain level of expectation. Like, for example, right? Let's just say I'm trying to figure out something. Oh, that works pretty much everywhere. Let's just say Starbucks. Starbucks as an example. It's quite universal, right? You have your favorite drink there, but you go to different locations. If you get a different version every single time, even though your order is exactly the same, don't you feel kind of dissatisfied? Right?
Because you're going for a specific experience.
Right, exactly. But depending on location, you get different types. It's a little too sweet, or it's a little
Mhm.
too much cream in it, or whatever that might be. You don't want that kind of experience to be offered to your customers. Customers need to know, they love certainty. They do not like uncertainty. In order for you to be able to provide the same experience every single time, then you're going to have to get very good at what you do. And that takes time and many customers and clients over to really craft it. So that's the message, basically. Like, I understand that you want it to be everything and everywhere, and you wanted to attract a lot of different types of customers. Like, I get it, but this is where this whole counterintuitive um, operating mindset comes in. You have to fight the urge to get better at one thing, be known for one thing, and serve one market to your first million.
I love that. No, I really love that. And it just really it helps you really focus and double down. And I know I'm one of those creative generalists because I've made money doing all kinds of different services and things over the year, but
I did
it it
too.
it doesn't help people to buy from you if you're not clear on what your offers are, you know? Like if things are like, this is what it costs and this is what the
Yep,
process looks like, this is how long it's going to take. It's just it removes a lot of ambiguity and it's easier from a
that's right.
project management standpoint for yourself. So if you can take an influx of a larger volume of clients in, if you have everything, very rinse repeat on your own operations, right? Because things can get very messy. I've worked in a couple of, marketing agencies that blew up really quickly and then they
Yep.
shrunk back down because
Mm.
clients left and the quality of the deliverables weren't there anymore. So I guess the whole point is if you have things simple, it's both easier for the customer to buy and it's also easier for you to scale internally with your systems, processes, and project management, right?
That's why you wanted to start simple so that you can pinpoint where the weakest areas in your business and all of that when you're running the horizontally different types of offers, and you're running around and this broke and that is breaking down, and it's hard to tend to those things on daily basis. And obviously that is going to be the cause for your burnout, the depression, all those things that the entrepreneurs do go through. They all experience, nowadays we're talking a lot more about our mental health and all of it. A little while ago we weren't, but even then, we have to find a solution than just talking about it, right? So the simplifying, decluttering, really hone in on your zone of genius, so to
Yeah.
speak, according to that book, right?
Yeah.
That's the key, and it only takes a tiny amount of a mindset shift to say, you know what, I'm going to really sharpen my craft, and that is going to be my way to grow my business, and you're gonna like doing that work. You don't want to you don't have to compromise that. Oh, I'm gonna have to give up on this and give up on that to niche down or simplify my business model. You wanted to have fun, as you said, in the beginning. That's why I'm a huge advocate for like a gamifying, especially around this whole mindset thing. Just flip the script and just have fun with it, if you can't get around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, because there is some non-sexy things about, building your business for sure and having to do the sales and but when you get on the other side and you have those relationships with people and you can deliver that outcome because it's all a rinse and repeat process, there's just a lot more to
Exactly.
offer there. So what are some other uncommon traits or beliefs you have based on working with companies and entrepreneurs when it comes to business growth?
Yeah, so growth versus scaling. that's
Oh yeah.
that's you know that's where I don't know if it's uncommon or not, but I don't think we talk about it enough. In my mind, growing a business and scaling a business are not the same thing.
Hmm.
So let me explain very quickly. Growing is something that you can just keep multiplying it. So, for example, If you're a solo operator, you are going to just grow your, whether that's the number of your customers or the amount of revenue until you hit the limit. You get to grow it, just without really doing a massive overhauling or revamping or anything. That's growing. And there's a season for that for any businesses. You can get away with it, so to speak, to a certain point until you hit that limit, right? There's going to be a ceiling, you know, to be operating that way until you hit it. You get to grow. Now, scaling is actually scaling back. In
Oh, I like
order to
that.
scale, you need to scale back, meaning that you need to assess everything and you go through these three criterias. Is it repeatable? Is it replicable? Is it trainable?
Hmm.
And you're going to get rid of all the kinks, all the junk behind the door or under the hood, however you describe it, so that it gets repeatable, replicable, and trainable. Then you get to scale. So in a way, scaling up is scaling back. So you need to slow down to speed up. And that's the part that a lot of people don't realize. They would say approach me or give me a call and say no, I wanted to scale and I just wanted to go all in and I want to do expansion everything. Like no, that's not what you need right now. What you need right now is doing an assessment and you're going to keep cutting down on things. So that may mean, for example, that you may have to hold off on acquiring more customers and clients until you have that set up to go all in.
Hmm.
But that's the part that people feel quite uneasy about. Oh,
They think
they
they
get
want
into
more,
the
more,
scarce,
more.
right, they get
Yeah.
into the whole scarcity thing. But are
Hmm.
you looking down the road the next 3 years or are you just looking at the next 2 quarters?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself that. And if you're looking at the next 3 years, then that is what you have to do. Once you get over the hump, though, it becomes way, 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 way easier. You don't have to limp your way through scaling.
That's right. And there it hits that breaking point. As I said, I've been in some of these organizations that do hit that breaking point. And if you don't
Yeah,
have the people and systems and processes to be replicable, it's like it
yeah.
just it blows up your company. And you said so you touched on the growth versus scaling, and then and when you were responding to the other question, something I was going through my head because I'm just like writing out notes for sound bites for later. But yeah, talk a little bit about profitability in here too, because I think that's the other thing too, is people start scaling and think they just want more, 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 and then all of a sudden the cash flow is a mess, and you have too many people around, and you know.
I've spoken to several great entrepreneurs that I do respect, and they definitely reached it up beyond the 7 figure without any additional funding or backing or anything like that, and they tend to tell me the same thing: don't throw money at problems, and they've done it. Once they started to grow and not scaling, but to grow, they start, well, they understand that the automation can be important, training other staff is very important, keeping your A team is important, and
Hmm.
the delegation is important, but you can't really throw money at problems. You put money into solutions.
And just solutions. Oh, I
you know
love that.
yeah, there's a difference, and they all say the same thing. Once they're expanding, though, think about it. I'm glad that you pointed out this profitability thing, because say the revenue is going up, but the revenue isn't really, like, I don't care what the revenue is. The people can tell me whether that's $425,000 a year to $12 million a year. I don't give a damn about revenues, because revenue
Hmm.
doesn't tell me anything. What are you netting? Really,
For
right?
sure.
So the
Yeah.
revenue goes up and expenses go up about the same, or the expenses are going to exceed the revenue. That can happen, of course.
Yeah.
Um, little caveat, we're not talking about startups. Startups is a whole different setup. If they're talking about growth, I don't care whether expenses go across the revenue, they just want their startup to be bought out by other companies. That's a whole different story. That's not what we're talking about. We're
Yeah.
talking about the actual, sort of a tried and tested service businesses is what I'm talking about. You
Hmm.
don't want your expenses crossing the revenue. So the profitability is very important. Don't expand everything. Don't amplify the mess. That's
Yeah.
the kind of way that I would explain that situation where the business owners are not really paying attention to their bottom line, so to speak, what is at the bottom of the P&L, and they're not investing in the right thing so that their balance sheet looks off.
And what's the point in growing this company? Like I spoke with somebody before who had like an office downtown Toronto, and with the owners were all paying themselves the salary and stuff. I was like, well, what a big headache to have to do all this complexity and manage this huge model. And they're making as much money as a say small solopreneur or somebody with, a
Right.
small company. So it's like you have to look at it, what's your take home, right? Like sometimes like introducing all that complexity and scale, you might end up making less, or you could be making more with a lot more ease, like I guess bigger is not always better, I guess is my point.
Because you're like in that particular case, that
Yeah.
business is amplifying the mess, right?
Yeah.
So if you really do the math and look at those, the reports, the cash flow analysis, the P&L, the
Yeah.
balance sheet and all of it, they're going to be in for surprise. Am I making like literally like a $5 an hour? Like if you quantify not only what you're taking home, that's not the only thing. The time is also currency too, right? So if you're
Mhm.
putting 70 hours, 75 hours a week, which a lot of people, do, and if you divide that hours by what you're actually getting, then it can be a lot lower.
Oh, I love that. So, I've already touched on how your blogs are amazing. So, if people want to come and consume some of your content and see what you're all about, how can people find you, Maiko?
So the easiest thing is to go to myname.com. Yeah, but it's
Okay.
not that easy because of my name. So, I hope, there will be that URL under your show notes or something like
Yeah,
that where you can click on
absolutely.
it. Yeah, and I do have some free quizzes that you can take. It's fun, it's short, but you get the full assessment in return. So once you get to the main page, you cannot miss them. You'll find those quizzes. That's the easiest way. And I'm pretty fairly active over Twitter X. So yeah, send me
Great.
many messages.
Reach out. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. A pleasure as always. And I'm so excited to, continue this conversation offline.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.